Okay, so part two here. Our second example is going to be our little Pennsylvania Reading Seashore Line H10 is going to be picking up a load at the oil drum station. So what we're going to do is we've already made our recording, so we're just going to run it, and what's going to happen is it's going to go around the layout, go through a couple of switch turns, and then finally come back here and end up in front of the oil drum loader. The oil drum loader is going to start up automatically by itself, load the car, and then the engine is going to proceed on. So that's our recording. And so this example is just to show you that not only can you control engines and switches, but if you have accessories also hooked up to the layout control system using the accessory switch controller module, you can also control accessories with your recordings. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our Pennsylvania Railroad Seashore Reading Line H10 here. We got an open gondola car, and what we're going to do is we're going to run it around the layout, do a couple of switch changes, and then we're going to come back around and stop in front of the oil drum loader, and we're going to load some oil drums onto it, and then it's going to continue on. And that's our recording. Now, I've already made the recording, so I'm just going to show you the result. And the recording is on the same sensor track we did the recording for the Blue Comet, except it's going the other direction. So for this one engine, if it's going this direction, it will trigger this sequence of events. Okay, so again, all we're going to do is on our H10 for the speed control, we're just going to pick the lowest one so it arrives at the sensor track at the exact same speed, and then we're good to go. So let's start up and then watch the sequence. And we're going to put the remote back in the charger here. You should see the lights start flashing when the recording playback starts. So it's flashing, which means we're now in playback mode. So I blew the whistle, I sped up the train. Train's going to go through the middle of the layout. I did flip this switch over here, which should flip in a couple seconds so that it would go on the inner part of the loop when it comes around. There it goes.
Yes, sir. Clear boards. Out.
So the train's going to come around the back there. It's going to come under the lift bridge and then around. Couple whistle blows.
This is the tower. You're clearing to the station. Over. Clear block.
And then we're going to speed it up when we come around this corner. It's going to get pretty fast. Alright, so with this switch over here, it's going to switch back to straight. There it goes. Again, no hands. And as you can see, then that's pretty much it. So we scheduled it so, and we made it so that basically as we came around, it pulled in front of the accessory, and then because that accessory again is controlled by the the layout control system, it was able to use a legacy command to turn it on and off. Now, when I first ran this as a test through, I picked the wrong preset speed when I first started the train out. So originally when I did the recording I was at preset number 2, but I picked preset number 1 when I started it out, which was a little bit slower. So what happened is the train ended up back here as far as the gondola instead of in front of the oil drum loader. But the oil drum loader still did its command and started loading drums onto the track, basically. So that's why it's so important that the speed be accurate, and you should probably leave yourself a little gap in between some of these events. So in other words, let's just say for whatever reason it's taking a little bit longer to get up here from the original recording that you did. If you leave a little time, then the accessory won't start right away. So leave a little gap before it actually starts, and the same thing after it finishes too, and then before the train takes off and things like that. So you kind of have to play with it, experiment with it, but the key is you really need to use those preset speeds to start, so that when you pass over the sensor track, and I keep repeating this, but it's why it's so critical, is when you're first passing over this, you're at the exact same speed as you were when you did the recording. As long as you're there and the train is pretty much the same as far as the number of cars on it and that kind of thing, you won't have a problem. Now, if I took this same train and I added, like, say 7 cars on it, that's going to slow it down a little bit. So then there's a possibility when it comes around here to line up with the oil drum platform that it actually won't, because now it had some more weight to it, which means it has a little bit more lag, and so the speed is not, again, exactly the same. So that's just something to keep in mind. But my main point on example number 2 here was that you can actually have it all pre-programmed to stop in front of accessories, trigger those accessories to do something, and then move on. It doesn't even have to be an accessory that you load things on. Like if you wanted to have, like, I have the, for instance, the burning switch towers over here. I could have that just activate as the train's going by, or, you know, whatever it may be. Okay, so again, I don't know if you remember this from my earlier videos, but all this is controlled by all these modules, which are part of the layout control system. So all the accessories are wired into these modules, the block power controller for the track blocks, etc., turning those things on and off. So any of this stuff is all part of the system, and that means it's all going through legacy signals and commands and can be recorded. Alright, so let's talk about some of the settings for the sensor track here, as far as now that you've made a recording. Maybe you made one in one direction or both directions, whatever it may be, but you want to run your train. So I want to run my H10 here, but I don't want it to use the recording, so I want to just control it manually in this particular case. Alright, anytime that train runs over this track, it's going to automatically trigger this recording, so that's not what I want it to do. Now I could erase it, but that doesn't make any sense, because then I have to re-record it again if I ever want to use that same type of scenario. So there's a couple things that you can do. So first of all, just to stop a recording that is actually playing, you can just hit the button right here and that will stop it. Or on your Cab 2 remote, you can press the accessory button, and then auxiliary 1 and the 0 button, and whatever's currently playing is terminated. Okay? Now, you have to also put in the TMCC ID of this sensor track. So like I have 10, I would have to know which number it is in order to do that. Okay, so that's harder than just actually hitting the button and terminating it. Okay, obviously if you cut power to the track, that also terminates the playback. If you want to erase the user recording, I'll show you how to do that in a second. But you can also put the sensor track to sleep. And so what that means is that it will be basically inactivated, and that way when the train passes over the sensor track, you're not playing the recording. However, you also will not play any presets. So if you had some preset actions set up on your sensor track, like blowing the whistle or something, those also will be deactivated. So really what you're doing is you're just deactivating the entire sensor track almost like it's not there. So again, won't play any presets or user recordings. Automatically when you put it to sleep, it terminates any currently playing recording, and it'll also exit the record armed mode if you happen to if you're waiting for a recording to happen. Okay. So the way you do that is you just press and hold both the program and the record for 2 seconds until both the LEDs flicker and then go off. And then once that happens, it's in sleep mode. So if I just hold these two down right here, you're gonna see the LEDs flicker, right? And then when I let go, they'll go off. This is now deactivated. So if I run this H10 over here, this playback should not start. So let me grab my remote here, we'll start it up and we'll just go over the sensor track here and we'll see what happens. Okay, and as you saw, it's not blinking, the playback has stopped, so this sensor track is in sleep mode. Okay, so now I don't have to worry about it and I can temporarily turn it off. Now, if I want to wake my sensor track up from sleep mode, then you can just, again, press and hold the program and record buttons for 2 seconds. The LEDs will turn on until you release the buttons. Okay, so if I do the same thing, now the LEDs are on, let go, now it's back to being awake again. And all the normal operation that you had before is now restored. So if I back this up over the sensor track and then rerun it again, it will start the recording. So let me back it up here. Recording has started again, right? Because it's blinking. I'm going to turn it off. Okay, but now the sensor track is active again, so you have your recordings there. So you can put to sleep a sensor track and wake it up. All right. You can also use the cab 2 buttons to either sleep all sensor tracks or wake all sensor tracks. So if you just want to sleep all the sensor tracks on your layout, you can just hold down the accessory button 99, aux 1, and 0. So I know, yeah, it's a lot of buttons to push, but it's all in the manual, and you can put to sleep all your sensor tracks at once. And then you can wake them all the same way by doing the same accessory 99, aux 1, and then the 1 button. So it's basically 0 turns them off and 1 turns them back on. Alright, so all that is in the directions. If you want to erase your recordings that are on there, you can do that by pressing and holding the record button on the sensor track until it blinks, and then you release it, and then press and hold the record button until it's solid red, and then release it, and then they're all deleted. So in other words, we're going to basically press and hold until it starts blinking. So now it's blinking, and if I press and hold it now till it goes solid red, now it's all deleted. Okay, so now all recordings, either direction, have been deleted on this sensor track. And you don't have to worry about turning them on and off. So now if I run my train over, the recording should not play anymore because there is no recording on this sensor track. So I'm going to back it up over it. And again, it doesn't do anything. The sensor track is active, but there's no recordings on it anymore because we deleted it. So you do have a bunch of options as far as the programming of the track itself, turning the sensor track on and off, turning them all on or off, just stopping a recording, or completely erasing a recording. But just remember, if you're erasing a recording, it's for both directions. You can't just erase one direction. You're just erasing everything that's on the track itself.